Welcome to this bonus episode of PULP Kitchen, where we're going to be talking spoilers about Barbie and Oppenheimer.
If you didn't catch our full spoiler-free episodes, please go back and check episode 86, where we talked about Barbie and Oppenheimer and gave our thoughts and impressions on those. So please, if you haven't, go back and listen to those. But these will be spoiler thoughts on Barbie and Oppenheimer. So spoiler warning.
So spoiler warning. To begin, Barbie. Let's talk spoilers. Just on the main, just following what we said in the main episode, I was talking about how it ends with Ken. I like the whole idea that Ken, you don't have to justify your existence by the things that you own and do and the way that you behave around women and other things. You are enough. You are Ken-enough.
Because he was like, I only feel good when Barbie acknowledges my existence.
It's like,
you
don't need to bring women into your problems. You can actually, or bring women into your identity. You can just have something of your own.
And in Barbie Land, the Kens were competing against each other.
Yes.
Whereas in the real world, which is, again, not accurate, like all the men were like, hey man, you're the best. You could be anything. You could be a doctor. You could be a businessman.
But you had some thoughts on the ending.
Yeah, so like there were a couple of things that I said in my spoiler-free review, which I said overall really, really enjoyed the film. Thought it was such a wonderful satire of loads of different things and manages to balance so many different elements. But I felt like towards the end, I was aware of how much the film was trying to do and how much of a burden I felt like it took on. And there were certain elements towards the end, certain sequences, which I felt like were maybe a little bit too much. We'd zoomed out a little bit too far. I worried this film, despite being an amazing commentary on feminism, was maybe a little bit trying to solve so much about it. It's like, we've started to say so much. Do we need to solve it?
Yeah.
I think my thing was like, you don't need to try and do that in this film. You've already said enough, which I think is really smart.
It's like this only needed to be an introductory class. It didn't need to be the whole semester.
Yeah. It's like solve world hunger and world peace. There's a certain so the character Ruth Handler, who's introduced, again, like I've talked about, the real world being presented is incredibly surrealist. That in the building of Mattel on the 17th floor, there's a setting
like a Matrix-y.
It really felt like going to see the Oracle at the Matrix. Like
I think that is deliberate, actually. Yeah.
100%. And you know, she goes to see this woman, and I don't get that reference, so I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, I was lost too. But later, Will Ferrell says it's a ghost, right?
Yes, it's a ghost, and then she comes in later, and I did find the scenes where, you know, Ruth and Barbie are talking about how because Barbie's now become self-aware and she's solved the problems of trying to fix Barbie Land, and now she's got to kind of go back into the real world. She's kind of like Frodo when he goes back to the Shire. Nothing was ever the same. You can, that's my reference.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that was a little bit of a weird presence to have at the end of your movie, because the film really does divert quite a lot from Barbie's problem, and it becomes Ken's and Barbie Land. And I didn't love that presence in there as like, well, this is what's going to solve it. Like, did you find that? Even though it got explained to me, I was a little bit lost.
I think it became quite didactic, you know, quite, and then this, and you can do this. And I agree that it was the last 20 minutes of the exam when you're trying to get in all the points that you know well and you've revised, but you're really rushing to get them in, and you're running out of space on your page, so you do them in bullet points. And it's like well-intentioned, but you're right. Yeah, I think done a little differently, but I don't know. I have so much goodwill towards the film; it kind of goes to me through, and maybe it'll work better now we know that that's part of the beast on second viewing. I know what you mean. Like, I loved the Super 8 intercut archive footage of just women and families and mothers and. But I can understand if some people found that just completely out of place and not
the first time that it showed, Barbie was trying to figure out like who was playing with her, and it just shows this very quick vertical slice of someone's life, of their daughter growing up and rejecting the love
Jesse
of her mother.
In Toy Story 2.
Like Jesse in Toy Story 2. And I just was already like, oh my god, this is gonna get me. And then it's the reveal of obviously America Ferrera plays the regular woman, and there's that reveal that it's actually the inverse, which I thought was really nice. But then. The celebrate, as you said in your main review, a celebration of women and the roles that women play, and how they we have such a close connection to everyone in family, and the use of that film is just really beautiful.
And I felt a connection from that film back to Jo March in Little Women.
Yes,
I felt, and I could see, and Lady Bird as well. I could see Gerwig's fingerprints on this, and what I like is that for a film that is so much of its own brand and iconic Barbie figure. It sits very comfortably on the shelf with the other two Greta Gerwig films. And I look at the 3 films she's made now as a filmmaker, and I think, what a great set.
Yeah.
What already. For all your issues with it, whatever. I mean, I still think Little Women is unbelievable. I think it's great. And then the more I think about that film, the more I think that film is like climbing up the ranks of one to stick around for the ages. But this is a welcome entry into filmography.
Did you enjoy the musical numbers?
The Ken, I think
Ken v Ken bit.
I liked the Ken
I
v
laughed
Ken
at it.
D-Day thing. I laughed at the visuals of the dance. I think after a while the song was like I don't think I needed this to get the point. It
Right,
labored it not labored. It
set
made
the
the
theme of
the Ken thing kind of went on for a while and
Yeah.
almost pulled focus away from Barbie. But it was like
To me, those totally kind of worked in it because those were like studio set jib camera movements,
I get
which
that.
really felt in piece with the setting. And I was like, oh, like that's really cool. That sequence works. A sequence to me that didn't work, and I'm kind of just running through some criticisms, is the chase scene between Will Ferrell and the corporates through the office.
Oh no, I liked
cubicle.
that in Mattel.
Oh, see, I found that really weird.
No,
They
no.
were like running weirdly.
Yes, but
like they suspended on string.
No, it's
and I was like, what?
You've
What
got this
is
kind of
again,
you've
another
got this
Matrix
hyper
reference.
formal, hyper formal setting where there's strict structures and strict things and they're operating in a certain way. Yes, I know that might seem weirdly stylized, but I like the whole
what is
sequence
this?
for showing the different way that I think that men and women interact with the problem. So the
Sure,
keep
yeah.
it when Barbie goes over the when she runs past the security gate, she just goes over it, and then all the men run up and they just suddenly go, "We haven't got a key pass." Yeah, well,
Go get my key pass.
and he like throws it at her, and then he's like, "No!"
Oh God, no, it's over there.
Like that, I thought
It was like,
was
we never needed it. We never needed it.
ridiculous and like over the top. But I really enjoyed that. I mean, I do see what you're saying there. The bit that I always thought was strange. You know when they wave goodbye to Barbie and everyone's like waving like that. You know when they wave, as she walks off with Ruth, they all kind of wave like that, and America Ferrera kind of looks around and does the same thing, and I'm like, what? That we don't need this joke about the way that people wave. Is that a very Barbie thing to wave like that? What?
It's like, you know when she goes to confront the girl in the school and she's dressed in like, cowboy Barbie regalia, and I'm just like, no one was weirded out enough that a woman dressed in pink or bright blue walked into a school, and that Ken, another grown-up, just walked into school.
I know,
in
but
bright clothing.
I thought that too. But I also think that's part of the kind of hyper real stuff. I know what you mean. But then, like, you also have a car chase, and you also have America Ferrera drawing Barbie, which makes Barbie.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of took it. It takes a leap, and I think you can kind of fold it back into the stuff. But I agree. When Barbie was talking to the young daughter, I was thinking, so she's pretty much just accepted straight away that this woman is basically some sort of manifestation of Barbie.
It's like there's a lot, and there's like a lot of attempts at like different tones, all right after each other. And I think it can be slightly jarring to be like, do I like this? Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird. One thing I really enjoyed was Kate McKinnon as the weird Barbie. I'll be honest, I've really enjoyed Kate McKinnon in select SNL sketches, but I do not think a film has been able to properly nail down her comedy.
Yeah.
I thought she was so funny in this. And also the idea of the weird Barbie, that a little girl like took too far and drew on and cut the hair off and bent the legs round the back, but has been like rejected, but obviously still has a place in the toy box. Was so funny. And it was like, you're really weird. She's like, yeah, but I'm owning it.
Yeah.
And she's like really resourceful and has knowledge, and she's a little bit older. Have you got a map? Yeah, I've got a huge one. Like, pull down the thing. I drew it myself. And just like embracing the weirdness of it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just dense with comedy last. I thought Kate McKinnon was really, really good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. She hasn't always worked for me, but I think that she was great in this. Good little John Cena walk-in moment, which I really thought was funny.
Dua Lipa hanging out there as well. Yeah. Billie Eilish song, Dua Lipa song.
That's it, Lizzo
Mark
song.
Ronson did all the
and one
music
song had Slash and Wolfgang Van Halen on guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm staying for these credits.
Yeah.
The joke I really enjoyed was the one about when they tried to leave Kendom, and Alan's like, as soon as those Kens figure out that they need to build the wall sideways and not upwards, and then like paving
just
it
there,
up.
like, able to do it. I really liked when Ken is like discovering the real world and how he really believes he could just do anything, and it just cuts to him in a hospital, and he's like, no, and the doctor's like, no, I won't let the female doctor's like, no, I won't let you do an appendectomy, and he's like, but I'm a man, and he's like, but not a doctor, and Ken is like, can I talk to a doctor? And she's like, you are talking to a doctor. And he's like, and I need a clicky pen. No, and a sharp thing. No, there he is, doctor. Like, somebody get security.
And like the idea that a woman asked me for it at the time, she respects me.
Yeah.
So he has all the watches on.
There's this great moment where like And I'll get on to this later where they've done everything they need to do in the real world. They realize they need to go back to Barbie land. And Barbie is with America Ferrera and her kid. And they're like, we're just going to go into like an unknown world? What about Dad? Is he going to be okay? Dad's going to be fine. Cut to Dad. Afromos a cliente. It's just him doing his like
Duolingo.
I just laughed so hard at that. But yeah, guys, those were just some extended spoiler thoughts on the film Barbie. As always, please let us know your thoughts to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We'd love to hear what you think. And if you haven't checked out the full episode, we gave way more thoughts in our full episode on episode 86. So go check that out if you haven't.
Guys, Barbie is finally out and it is made to be seen on the big screen. And View has the ultimate seat, screen and sound experience. They have great value screenings every day from as little as $4.99 when booked online in selected venues.
Guys, View has got a brand new exclusive candy floss flavored Tango Ice Blast to celebrate the release of Barbie. They sold 26,000 litres of it in the opening weekend, so it must be good. They also have new exclusive Coke Fusion flavours that are made for popcorn pairings. So perhaps you fancy going with something sweet with cherry vanilla for Barbie or something salty with orange cherry for Oppenheimer.
View has loads of Barbie and Oppenheimer screenings coming out in the next few weeks, so it's very easy for you to make your own Barbenheimer double bill if you fancy.
You can find more info on screenings at myview.com. So, just to come in with some spoiler impressions of Oppenheimer. Guys, if you haven't heard our full spoiler-free thoughts, go back to our full episode where we talked about our impressions of Oppenheimer. One of the sort of main reveals that sort of forms the third hour, the third act of this film, is how Robert Downey Jr.'s Levi Strauss intersects with Oppenheimer, right? So
Lewis Strauss
intersects with Oppenheimer. And you know, the intersection of communism and the Communist Party in Oppenheimer's early life affecting everything, how that intersected with his marriage, former love life. And there's this dynamic of, towards the end of the film, it comes apparent how in 1954 and the 1959 subplots are connected. We learn that Strauss was responsible for the creation of the committee reviewing Oppenheimer's security clearance, right? Even though he was a supporter and friend of Oppenheimer, like he invites him to be at college. Is it Berkeley at that time?
Yeah,
Whatever. Where Einstein just like chills by the lake.
Pond,
Yeah. Strauss was secretly nursing a grudge against him for years from two incidents where there's one is a day where Oppenheimer supposedly turns to Einstein and turns him against Strauss, which we learn to be not true. Yeah. And another one during a general advisory committee of atomic scientists where Strauss is humiliated in front of his colleagues by Oppenheimer. So that sort of is where that intersection of Robert Downey Jr.'s character. So I watched it for 2 hours. I was thinking, like, how is that going to... Yes. I already knew annoyingly that he was going to be put against him. I was like, where does that come from? We talked about the problems of, you know, that, like, presenting that information. I thought, as we said, Robert Downey Jr. Really does do an incredible job in a role that I sort of like he's been stuck on. It looks like he's stuck on Iron Man for such a long time, and he's so great at Iron Man, and it's the role that he'll be defined for. But like, he really, really could hold his own with Alden Ehrenreich in there as well.
Yeah, every time I see Alden Ehrenreich, I'm like, I'm so glad you've continued to have a career because you did Solo, which was such a disaster.
But he was good in Solo.
No, he was good in Solo. My point is, and I was like, I was worried that his one shot at being a career actor was smothered by the shite.
He had his like discovery in Hail Caesar in that scene.
Yeah, and then straight away plucked a Solo. Yeah. Solo then hits the ground, and then I didn't see him in anything. I think he was in a TV series, Brave New World. He was in Cocaine Bear earlier this year. And when he was in this, I was like, oh, good, you are still.
We're going to get like 2 Solo sequels or something.
Nope.
Yeah. But it leads to, you know, this very cool final scene where Dr. Oppenheimer is talking to, you know, to Albert Einstein, right, about the fears of the technologies loosed upon the world. And while they now know that what they initially thought was that if you did an atomic bomb, it would create an unsustainable chain reaction that would ignite the atmosphere and destroy the entire world. And we saw that visualized in a couple of ways. What we then learned was that actually what he did ignite was the enthusiasm and the desire, now that everyone has seen the nuclear bomb, that in a lot of ways, while it didn't spread fire across the planet, it spread the knowledge of the nuclear bomb and the potential to use it and the desire to develop it is in a lot of ways just as destructive.
Very Promethean.
And I think that, you know, the inclusion of Albert Einstein as a film, I think, is a bold one. It could be very easy to have Einstein in your film and act as this like all-knowing genius father who can come and impart wisdom a couple of times and then leave. I actually thought the inclusion of Einstein was very well done.
Yeah,
I think that there was something quite interesting. I talked about the idea of passing on knowledge down and like hand-scrawled notes you pass on to someone. I really like that idea. And Einstein sort of had this sense where he published the theory of relativity like 30 years ago, and he was very much dealing with the ramifications of his work being interpreted and very much being the seminal science for how the nuclear bomb was being discovered. And he's almost like imparting his wisdom, but there's very little he can do. I actually really thought that is it Tom Conti?
Yeah, Tom Conti. Yeah,
Tom Conti was really, really good at that.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
Another. No, I agree. I liked the inclusion of Einstein. You've actually, sorry, not to detract from your question, but you've reminded me of another person who I really enjoyed in this. I forget the actor's name, but the actor who's in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, yes.
And he turns in this giving big Bruno Kirby energy. And if anyone knows Bruno Kirby, he was an actor who was in Godfather Part 2 as young Clemenza. He was in Good Morning Vietnam, and he was in When Harry Met Sally. And then I think he died very young, sadly, of cancer. But like, this guy,
David Krumholtz.
David Krumholtz, that's it. He turns up as, is it Rudy, his name is?
Isidore Isaac Rabbi.
Rabbi. He's called Rabbi. I think he's
Rabbi.
Rabbi. He's great. And
Really
the
good.
sort of, he's the prick in Oppenheimer's conscience about the wider things that are happening in the world. And they have this conversation with Oppenheimer's like, oh yeah, you know, he's wrapped up in physics. And the other guy's like, yeah, but you're Jewish as well. And do you not see the way that people talk about Jews here? You're not seeing
It was also very interesting to see some of the other scientists reveal their intentions for wanting to work on this in the first place. And they asked that guy, how long have you been British for? And it's like, until Hitler told me I was no longer German.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Fuchs.
the scientists on there were Jewish. Oppenheimer Jewish.
I do. Again, I felt like a couple of times, like Benny Safdie's character as Teller. Like, I became increasingly aware of the fact that I guess you're a significant scientist. Forgive me for not knowing my physicist.
I think I quickly, once you mentioned hydrogen, I was like, okay, that must be the hydrogen guy.
Are you the hydrogen guy?
Yeah. And I spoke to someone who didn't know, not that I'm judging, they didn't know the difference between an atomic bomb and a hydrogen bomb.
Right.
I kind of did know the
Yeah, me
hydrogen
too.
bomb was bigger, which I think helped me. I thought Benny Safdie was really good in it.
Great. I love it when
Very
Benny Safdie
sweaty.
said- Oh, yeah.
I really like the moment where, this is a cool moment, like right in the lead up to the Trinity test, they're just like, they've got no idea. They're like, are you sure this is the radius? Shouldn't we be farther back? Well, based on your calculations, they should be this far.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh my God, it's just some numbers on a chalkboard is what they're basing this on. And it's like, okay, so lie down on the floor, face the other way, and only turn around once the light is gone. And Benny Safdie is just there, lathering factor 50 on his face. And he points to the other guy. He's like, what are you doing with the glass? He's like, well, the glass might smash you. And you're just like, it's just the Wild West of ideas. But no, I thought Benny Safdie was very, very good.
So we touched on this in our main review, and one of my criticisms was that I don't think, for all the brilliance of Nolan's technicality, I do sometimes think he doesn't do people very well. And the scene I was talking about is related to Florence Pugh, and it's where Nolan goes, no, I'm going to show an interpersonal relationship here, and I'm going to present it. So here is Cillian Murphy there, I almost slipped into it, in his hearing, in his little room.
Tiny kangaroo court.
And we have him talking about his relationship with Jean Tatlock and their affair. And the camera pans behind a man, a silhouette of a man, as we're focused on Cillian Murphy. And as it comes out the other side, Cillian Murphy is completely nude, well, covered by the table, but naked in the way that he is in this story that he is telling.
Yes, and he has to admit the affair that he's had
with his wife sat behind him. And I get it, absolutely. You feel exposed, you feel naked, and then we cut to a bit where in the same room, Florence Pugh is then also naked, astride him, looking at Emily Blunt while she makes love to Oppenheimer. And me saying it, and it on paper sounds quite good. Cinematically revealed, doesn't work at all. But frankly, for me, it was just kind of like, it wasn't like laughable or anything. It was just more like, no, I just don't think you get this moment, Nolan. I don't think this nugget has been, I don't think you get the emotional thing of what's happening. I think you could have presented this.
It made me feel uncomfortable and not in a way that like, oh God, the film's making me uncomfortable. But I felt, I was like, half-baked, almost.
GCSE sort of.
I'll give it A level.
Yeah, all right. Maybe
It's illegal to do.
Students' union at best. That was the one moment I just thought, maybe stick to the technical stuff. I'm sorry, again, I feel like I'm being too negative, but like I said before, it is one of those things where Nolan is one of the biggest directors on the planet, releasing one of the biggest films of the year, literally one of the biggest films. Sometimes it's easier to see slight misshapes and tears in the fabric. But the bigger picture, the wider tapestry of the film, I think we all both really enjoyed.
On like people, I really do rate Emily Blunt as an actor, and I've enjoyed her in many other things. I did watch a lot of the early scenes in the first half of the film with Emily Blunt, and I thought,
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's the dialogue or like just like, you know, we talked about that scene where she grabs the alcohol and she's a distressed mother and the baby's crying and Oppenheimer has to take the baby and give it. And I get, you know, the toll that the project is taking. And I was a little bit like, oh, it's like this character is almost there. And they have these little sayings between each other. But I thought was a really great moment was when Kitty testified in the kangaroo court.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, like there's Emily Blunt. That was
Yes.
a really great moment. And it was she sort of had every reason to not do that. And I saw the camera was right up to her and she was holding her own against Jason Clarke. And I thought, oh my God, that was brilliant. That's why Emily Blunt's so great. But I was like waiting for
I think
that moment.
I put that purely down to the script.
I think that's what it is.
I will
too.
also say that moment where she comes alive in the meeting room, which I enjoy, but I was also that's when I was losing my grip and I was thinking, I wish I knew more to enjoy this scene.
Yeah.
I can't, and I guess I'm going to have to go back round and go do the ride all over again.
It does need a rewatch, this film. It really does.
And what I like, I mean, with Tenet, when people said, like, you need to rewatch it, I kind of rejected that and said, no, I think this film is inherently flawed.
I saw it again and I was still confused.
Exactly. Whereas this one, I admit that, like, I do appreciate, because thank God it's tethered to reality and tethered to history, that I could watch it again and get more out of it.
I want to pick up on some really amazing sound design things, which would be a spoiler if I think personally a spoiler if I revealed them. I think in one of the first ever opening sights and sounds in this film is this sound that I could describe as like a rum, rum. And it almost could be the sound of explosions in slow motion. And I only later noticed that it is referencing a moment in his life when the Trinity test is successful, and it's the stamping of feet of excitement, and this like there's a sense that this sonic boom is spread across the world, and this horror of that the sound I just thought had a horrifying sense of dread, and when the feet are stamping, it was like shaking the earth to its core, and I found that so unsettling, and the film is fucking loud by the way. The film really just screams at you, and I must say there are just so many amazing moments where the sound really affected me, where the wobble of the walls behind him in the hearing, of sense that like a nuclear bomb could at any minute just eviscerate this entire planet. Incredible moments when they again build up to the Trinity test. They have the bomb in like a big box crate. And it's very tense, and someone gets out a knife to cut the box open. And the guy's like, no, very careful. And you just get the sense, like, does anyone know?
The
And then they open the bomb. It's incredibly analog. There's gaffer tape, wires sticking out anywhere. That is like one person's watch hooking onto it to unplugging it. And then they reveal the plutonium or uranium, the thing that they've been mining for months, like very painstakingly, showing you visually, which I quite liked actually, how much needed to be mined with the marbles. And then they open it and it's this metal cylinder, and like, I don't know what the hell uranium, but there's this very subtle cracking of a Geiger counter so that you know that what they're handling is very unstable, very delicate in the time when everyone's rushing around. And then to pick it up, two scientists holding either side of a stick, like reaching over to line up, and there's just this as it's lowered in. Very much appreciated, very much. And then when the bomb is raised up, the rattly
the threadbare nature of it,
threadbare nature of it, the Daniel Plainview oil rig ready to blow. I just thought it was creaking and wobbling, and I was like, if it falls, does it blow up? Does everyone need to go? And I'd get the rising attention to that, and so many little parts of it I thought were just so well done.
I would just say about Kenneth Branagh, typically
refuses to be English.
Typically when Kenneth Branagh, I don't mind Kenneth Branagh, but typically I don't mind him turning. Well, I get a little bit annoyed when he turns up doing a funny accent, and like in Tenet, I didn't think he worked. In this, obviously, he's playing Niels Bohr, right? Who was Danish. I'm not sure. He was Danish. European, and I actually didn't find Kenneth Branagh's inclusion distracting or irrelevant at all. And he has some of the good lines. He says, "No, you've given them the power to destroy themselves." I think it's a strong film from Nolan. I just think it's like I said, the things I'm pulling Nolan up on are things that are just inherent to him in a way. So that's why I said it might come down in the main review. That's why I said it might come down to taste.
A piece of it I thought was interesting, and I think on our point, I think could have been more impactful if it had been given time to breathe. Is progressing to the end of the Second World War, the news is out that Hitler's probably dead, and it's this conversation of like, okay, well, hang on.
If Hitler's dead,
why are we still making this?
Yeah.
And it's this really uncomfortable conversation of, I think it's also Oppenheimer realizing that, you can't unmake this. That this is no longer about World War II. It's about everything else. And just this excuse me, horrifying conversation with the president deciding where they're going to drop the bomb. And I love this period of history. It's so fascinating. And you realize how much, to an extent, the entire world was literally about to blow itself up. But this is a moment where they're going, where are we gonna drop it? And why? Well, we should do one, and then we should probably do another one to let them know, to let them know that we have it, and let them know that we're willing to use it again.
Yeah.
And the matter-of-fact nature in which they go, well, not Kyoto because I went on a family holiday with there, and it'd be a real shame for us to blow that up.
The cold. Meaningless, futility,
and then that's when Oppenheimer's kind of realizing the blood he has on his hands. I think the decision to show or not show the images from Hiroshima, which I think unfortunately all of us have seen at some point, if you've ever studied any period of history, you've known, but seeing the look on Oppenheimer's face, I think choosing to withhold that, I think it's enough. Like you know what Nolan was good at demonstrating the power of the nuclear bomb in a lot of ways. Also, a lot of films I don't think. Usually when a nuke goes off in a film, it's often like, whoa, cool. Is that like really rude to say? But in this film, I was like, whoa. Well, it's the only time I've been like, shit, that's really terrible.
What, in this?
Yeah.
You mean like you were underwhelmed by the explosion?
No. I'm saying in a lot of other films, the introduction of a nuke.
Oh, he's like,
cannonball. It's like a fantastical.
When this, you're like, what a horrible weapon of death.
It's the first time I feel like a nuclear bomb has really been
lovely room of death.
Like the skin peeling off. I'm like, oh, I've actually properly been taught about the horrors of how this would actually play out.
You're kind of psyching me up to watch it again.
Gary Oldman coming in for that one scene. Oppenheimer sits down with the defense secretary's in the room as well.
I guess, yeah.
And he says, I feel, Truman is congratulating him on the success of the Trinity Project. And he says, I feel like I have blood on my hands. And Truman just gets out a handkerchief, hands it to him. And he says, do you think anyone in Nagasaki gives a shit who created the bomb?
Yeah.
This is going to save millions of lives. And it's that idea of, Japan would have surrendered. Japan would never have surrendered, which, I think like historically you can look back at that and say it's bullshit for so many reasons, but that justification, just so cold. And again, I loved discovering that period of history and the way in which it was uncovered with people in a room, scientists in a room who are, they understand physics, but it's like they're also making the decision and enabling the decision makers to do that. So the way the bomb, I'm just rambling, the way the bomb was packaged up immediately after the Trinity test and sent in crates to the US government.
Damon's, I'm off to Potsdam to tell Truman that like, we can, Oh, and did he tell?
Will you keep me in touch as much as I can?
Did he tell Stalin about it? He said we have a weapon, and we prepared to use it. Oppenheimer.
There's also an interesting. Sorry, another thing. The flashbacks of Jean, Florence Pugh's character, where it was inferred that she had either killed herself or had been murdered.
Yes, I asked my girlfriend about that. She thought that was a metaphor for him feeling like he was at blame.
He's sort of absolving himself from blame.
No. The opposite. I think he was thinking of himself physically pushing her under. But I thought it was a covert government.
Yeah, that was the thought. But is it almost like she probably did kill herself, but he's almost wishing that it was someone else?
I don't know. I think it's just an inference to be like maybe she was bumped off.
I did enjoy the suspense of like how like where a communist spy would come from, how that would involve, because it obviously did.
I would say I loved the brief inclusion of Casey Affleck giving this real menace. Well, what did you say about your? Where was he from? Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. Boris Pash. This plays. Right.
It's a very good Casey Affleck.
Whispery.
His mouth barely moves. But it's
like,
squinting.
Was he a member of the party? Was it?
Chevalier.
The Chevalier. Yeah. So again, I think the more we talk about it, the more comes back to me. And like I said, it's such
There's a lot in there.
It's a dense fruit cake of a film. You know, you get like a fruit loaf.
Really got to push
you
that
slice
knife
it.
in there.
Oh, it's a heavy sponge.
Yeah. I'm now more after chatting with
Yes.
you. I'm more excited to see it again.
Me too. Actually.
And I think I will report back on my second viewing. I have to prep myself for that day.
Yeah, you are.
I
Play your
will,
calendar.
slap my face, splash myself with cold water, scream into a pillow, and then go in.
Do you think Nolan took inspiration from that scene in Terminator 2 where Sarah Connor goes to the playground and then she has it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, guys, those were just some spoiler. It's a bit more rambly, our spoiler chats, but just sort of throwing in things we want to pick up on that are there. I really think it, despite criticism, I really think it's essential viewing for anyone listening. I think it's really worth going and seeing. Go and see it in the cinema if you're going to see it. It really is a very impactful and suspenseful experience. It's very intense. Like I would just preface it before you go and bring
dark.
Mum and dad and just be like, guys, there's going to be a lot. It's going to be dark. You're going to have a lot of thoughts. I did enjoy the very last wide of Planet Earth. The fire spreading across it, and Einstein basically telling you, like, basically, you've already done it. Guys, that was our spoiler thoughts on Oppenheimer. Thank you so much for joining us for them. Don't forget, we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday. We love doing all of these films. We love doing the spoiler casts of them.
See you for the main episode next week.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you want to keep up to date, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and on YouTube as well.